like Tom Wood.
I don't believe
I
him.
have no online
Yeah,
presence.
Tom. Don't even try and look him up. He is invisible. He is a myth.
He referred a client to me the other day, and I sent him my link tree. And like as I sent it, I was like, "This is my entire online presence." And I just thought to myself, I was like, "What would Tom Wood's link tree be? It would just be like an empty link tree with no links to click on,
It would be a broken link.
or just a broken link with like a QR code that leads you to the puzzle that you have to solve."
Welcome to the performance proposition. Kind of works. Sums everything up pretty neatly.
Welcome to performance proposition.
Yeah, I mean that's a good place to start. And then intros.
It would help if I could talk. Intros. Well, am I introducing myself?
You can introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Matt.
Nice. And tell us about yourself, Matt.
I mean,
This is Matt with a hat and a master's in strength conditioning.
Matt with a hat.
I am Zab with a BSc in sport and exercise science, and
Zab with a bag. You need a bag.
I need a bag. I mean, I don't need. Why do I need
Two
a bag?
bags.
Huh?
Zab with a bag. Matt with a hat and Zab with a bag.
But why a bag?
I don't know. Just I couldn't think of anything else.
I mean, I've just got a head.
Zab
I've got
with a
hair.
what?
We could just do that. Zab who's got hair, Matt who doesn't but wears a hat.
Matt with a beard.
Matt with a beard.
Zab with a.
Zab with a failed attempt at stubble.
I was gonna go with a child's pubic hair, but you know.
I mean, that's fairly unpleasant on your part. I can't believe you do that to me. Invite you into my home, make you a tea.
Yeah. But in fairness, you haven't been going around all week telling people that I refuse to switch with you on our holiday.
I actually haven't told a single person you refused to switch.
I mean, I was sat in the toilet stall while you told.
Yeah, no, I did tell one person. But I also knew you were in the toilet stall because of the fact your shoes are the easiest things to see.
Oh, what, the teal ones?
Yeah.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah. I mean, plus my eyes are naturally drawn.
They are naturally.
Not that I'm like staring under toilet stool doors on a regular basis, but like.
Yeah, fair.
They have their own lights.
I did think the other day that like maybe you need to partner up with Meg because she looked like the female version of you today. Like teal Gymshark top, teal shoes. I was like,
I don't know how Meg
it
would
feels
take
like
being,
she's.
I mean, the idea of wearing an outfit that is associated with my brand is fine, but the idea of being the female version of me might not necessarily be what she's going for.
I mean, there's at least one compliment in there, given that you won Brewer of the Year. You know, I would be happy to be the female version of you. And on to the important bits of the podcast. Starting with the dad joke. No lead in this time.
No lead in?
No lead in.
Wow.
Why did the Mexican need his pills?
I don't know.
Because of Hispanic attacks. And with that, on to the topic. So today, we are talking about strength standards.
Strength standards.
Okay.
Okay.
And so basically, what are they? What do we need them for? Do we need them? How might they?
How should they vary across populations? How should they vary across goals?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean, just to start off with strength standards, basically what we're talking about is how much should you squat? You know, like, is it 100 kilos? Is it 200 kilos? Is it 1 times body weight, 2 times body weight? There's all these numbers floating around, and yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts? Like, let's start.
How much weight you can lift across all exercises, rather than just like how much can you squat? But like, how much weight can you lift on a given move, and what standard does that meet? Is that high enough for you as an individual? How does that compare with other people similar to you, or even with athletes, if we're going to take it that far?
Well, do you want to start with let's say squat, bench, deadlift? What would be your strength standards for general population and athletes, so athletic population? Like, how would that differ?
So, I think it's a really interesting question, right? Because, like I was saying to you just before we kind of started recording, like, the capacity for general population to get stronger than a lot of athletes. Like, I have worked with international level athletes who are weaker than some of my Gen Pop clients.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I say, it kind of comes down to the goals they have. It comes down to how far they actually want to push it, how consistently they want to train, how long they've been training for, like all these variables. And like, I'd say there are levels. So what you would class as like a reasonable level of strength, a high level of strength, and an elite level of strength for Gen Pop. So realistically, if we're looking general population, probably looking at around 1.5 times body weight for a squat, 1 times body weight for a bench, and 0.7 times body weight for a shoulder press. If I was looking at a low level, like just entry level targets for people.
Yeah. As in, like, how strong should you aim to be?
How strong, when you're starting out, how strong should you aim to get? If strength is your goal, what should be the kind of first set of milestones for you? And that's where I would set the first set of milestones, and I'd probably move up to like 2 times body weight for squat, 1.4 times body weight for bench, maybe 1 times body weight for shoulder press.
Yeah, and deadlift.
Deadlift 2.5 times body weight. So
as a start.
No, so as a start, like 1.8, maybe 2.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's always the. So when I worked at Starks and Talk, one of the things that I like did to start off with is I created strength bands. At Starks, it was because we had like a beginners and intermediate, and then like advanced classes and stuff. So it was almost like a progression through those and whatnot. And like the place I'd always start is, you know, well, the place I actually always started was bodyweight squat, 0.7 bodyweight bench, and 1.5 bodyweight deadlift. Only because for beginners they feel closer and more attainable. Like, and it makes sense in their heads that they're like, I weigh this much. If I squat this, I'm squatting myself. And then beyond that, like you said, that was almost like the accessible one to kind of not intimidate people out of like trying to get there.
Yeah.
And then the next one was 1.5, 2 times bodyweight deadlift. Like that was the, like, okay, this is where I actually want you to be.
Yeah.
And then, like you say, I think like a double bodyweight squat, 2.5 bodyweight deadlift, 1.5 bodyweight bench, just because it was like, yeah, if you're strong, you're hitting those numbers. There's no doubt. And then above that, it's like, cool, you're basically elite at this point if you're getting above that. Because you could probably walk into any powerlifting competition in the country and not make an ass of yourself. People wouldn't be looking at you going, hey, he's weak.
Yeah.
You'd be like, oh, you're benching 1.5 times your body weight. So like, I don't know, as an 80 kilo lifter, you'd be benching 120, which is like, at 80 kilos, 120 is not a shabby bench.
Yep.
You know,
wouldn't be an elite bench in that world though. It would be like, it's that whole thing that kind of comes back to what your sport is, what the needs of that sport, or what your goals are as an individual. So like, they're not necessarily relevant to quite a lot of people, because some people, strength is going to be the foundation of everything they're doing in the gym. But for other people, like if they're just relatively good runners that like going out for runs and want to do some strength work alongside, set them strength goals and you can set them strength targets, but the strength training might only happen 1 or 2 times a week. And making their goals in that area too ambitious or line up with the targets that we've basically been speaking about so far probably isn't going to work for those people necessarily.
Well, so the interesting thing when you, like, just that example that you used is I always remember at uni reading about runners, right? And one of the things that was cited a lot of times in a lot of papers is the whole, you need to be able to squat double your body weight before it's quote unquote safe to run. I say that in inverted commas. Nobody pull me up on it, please. I'm not actually saying that you need to squat 2 times your body weight, otherwise you can't safely run. But that was the number that was coming out in papers that was like, if you can squat 2 times your body weight, if you're running, the chances of you getting injured are approaching 0.
Yes.
Because you're able to tolerate the ground reaction forces that you're producing on each stride, and therefore, like, you're just way more robust.
Yeah. But then equally, if you can squat 2 times your body weight, like that, you could reflect that with like a goal that is more associated with kind of a slightly higher rep scheme stuff. So maybe more towards 10 reps if that's the sort of thing they enjoy. or maybe working it around their 20 rep max within a strength circuit, doing 10 reps of squats but for multiple sets with limited recovery, you'll still build strength. You'd still potentially be able to convert the strength that you develop into a maximal strength lift of 2 times body weight without ever really actually trying to create that much force in a single rep.
Agreed.
And that might be an easier way to train and a better way to train for that individual based on the amount of time they have available to them in a gym environment. Not saying that runners shouldn't do some strength work if they have the time to do it, but if they don't have the time to necessarily devote 2 to 3 hours a week to their gym sessions, you might find it's easy enough to develop a degree of strength and a degree of robustness.
Oh yeah.
With circuit training.
Well, you just have to be. I think the key with running, right?
Yeah.
Is if you want to be able to just go and run, having not run for a while, you need to have a foundation of strength. Otherwise, like if you want to go out and like run a quick time or just go hard, like your joints are going to be like, dude, the fuck, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like I don't like this. But if you're consistently running and starting slow, you know, like the reason that Couch to 5K works so well is because it's chronic introduction to volume at a set amount that you're slowly increasing your tolerance to. And so, you know, the whole, we talked about this, I can't remember how long ago, but the acute chronic ratios and stuff where the acute load that you're doing is not so far away from the chronic load that you're used to, and therefore your body's able to tolerate it.
Yeah.
As opposed to like, you just can't shoot straight out for a 5K.
No.
If you don't have that base level.
Unless you have that base level of strength, or unless that 5K is substantially shorter than
what you're
loads you've run in the past.
Yeah.
Like if you've gone out and you've done 20 kilometre runs in the past, 40 kilometre runs in the past, going out for a 5K after a bit of time off probably isn't going to be.
But if the most you've ever done is 5K, 10K, it's probably going to mess you up a little bit if you try and get straight out for that.
No, I completely agree. And there's the whole idea around. So when it comes to strength standards, one of the things that's probably most useful to discuss is what the level of strength is that is going to allow you to maximise your performance in your sport. So the key with strength, if you want to be strong enough to perform your movements well and efficiently, and robust enough to withstand the amount of load that you're going to expose your body to.
Yeah.
So those are the two kind of primary benefits of strength training. Like movement efficiency is obviously in there.
Yeah.
Like within that initial compartment. When it comes to moving efficiently, we're looking at being able to produce 2.2 times the amount of force that you need to produce within a given setting, as we were speaking about while we were reporting. And then when it comes to being robust enough, that could come down to being able to hit a certain number, or it could be about exposure to a given amount of load at a given intensity that doesn't necessarily reflect that maximum figure, but it's still high enough that it will help you to withstand forces from your performance, from your sport.
Yeah. So I mean, just because I think it's going to be really, really useful for people who are listening, who will have picked up on what you said, the number, the 2.2 times the force that you need to produce in your sport.
Yeah.
How would one measure how much force is required for a sport? Because obviously, like, it's one thing to say it, it's another thing to be like, okay, I've heard you say that. How do I then, like, I'm a footballer, how do I measure how much load I need to produce for my force, and therefore figure out what 2.2 is, and then go towards to achieving that goal? Is that possible?
I mean,
is that like
there are things you can do where you can look things up online, you can find certain figures associated with testing that's been done. Like, obviously, in an ideal scenario, you're going to look at some force plate data of your own, but if you're not an elite level athlete, like, that's going to be really hard to come by unless you're at a university that is doing force plate studies, or you're part of some kind of research study that's doing that for you.
Although I will say, Google Scholar, if you're ever looking to look up a study, that is your best bet for finding as many open access studies. And I won't say this too loudly, in fact I'll say it because I'm not sure how legal it is, but do not use Sci-Hub, SCI-Hub.
Yeah.
The end bit of that is ever changing because of the fact that it keeps getting shut down in different countries. So
what's the other
do
really
not
funny
use
one?
that.
There's one like that's called like Europe or something like that. That's like
I've not
it's like some Scandi one that you can basically find
anything you want.
Sorry, you can't find anything that you want. You shouldn't find anything that you want on that particular website because it's really bad for research departments and primarily publishers.
Yeah, you definitely can't download entire PDFs of books that you want to read and all that sort of, just
I heard a rumor. I've never engaged with such material.
No, neither. Why would you? It's illegal. So
I actually don't look at anything on the internet
ever. I'm like Tom Wood.
I don't believe
I have no online presence.
Tom Wood. Don't even try and look him up. He is invisible. He is a myth.
He referred a client to me the other day, and I sent him my link tree. And as I sent it, I was like, "This is my entire online presence." And I just thought to myself, I was like, "What would Tom Wood's link tree be? It would just be like an empty link tree with no links to click on.
It would be a broken link,
or just a broken link with a QR code that leads you to the puzzle that you have to solve to find the coordinates that you have to go to pick up the old school telephone." Follow a star.
Follow a star and you will find Tom Wood.
We can't be this blasphemous on actual recorded media.
Okay, I'll stop. I will stop. As much as I want to carry on.
I know.
Right. Yeah. So realistically, if you're looking to find out how much force you need to produce, best bet is Google Scholar because that one is legal.
Yeah.
And you will be able to find research papers that will tell you that you can kind of find needs analysis for different sporting settings.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, a lot of that is going to come down to your position, your weight, your everything. Yeah. But it will give you some decent enough markers to kind of work towards.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that's probably the best bet for the vast majority of people.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, to be honest with you, if you can't find that, if you're really struggling, I think if it's an athletic performance, the 2 times body weight for leg movements is a great place to start. If you're going to be performing athletic movements, being able to produce double your body weight
in triple extension, bilateral triple extension, so anything like a squat or a deadlift.
Exactly.
What about a mid-thigh pull?
Mid-thigh pull. I mean, it depends.
Or open hex bar.
Open hex bar. I mean, open hex bar. You can go a little bit higher because it's easier. The mechanics are easier and stuff. So you can probably go up to 2.5 in a hex bar. I mean, I think when I could squat 160, maybe 150, I could hex bar deadlift 200. Do you know what I mean? The difference in strength, because it's such a mechanically efficient position for you to be in, because you can get your back, your hips, your legs, everything just working, and you're not having your spine compressed or way in front of you like you have in a deadlift.
It's just a leverage system. It's just so much easier, right?
Exactly.
Your levers are so much shorter in each scenario, so the amount of force you have to produce, because at the moment arms are shorter, is just way lower.
To be fair, from an athletic point of view, a trap bar deadlift is probably a better strength standard, saying 2.5 times body weight in a trap bar, because you're not then limited, because a lot of athletes tend to have long femurs, short torsos, because the whole relative torso length to those are the people that tend to be more athletically gifted, are the ones with longer legs and slightly short, those ratios that make squatting and deadlifting difficult make you more nimble on your feet, better, your legs are having to deal with less stress up here, someone with a huge torso.
The whole thing of an open bar versus a squat. An open bar is easier to coach, easier to develop strength in, reflects the amount of movement that you actually need for most sporting scenarios.
Yeah.
That's kind of the fundamental. Those are the main big ones for me, because I think you can kind of teach anyone to squat, you can teach anyone to deadlift, you can teach anyone to move relatively well. It takes more time.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily add a huge amount more value.
Yeah, and it's like you say, it's mobility dependent and restricting.
And it might work you over a bigger range of motion than is necessary. But if you want to work on a squat, if you want to work on a deadlift, if you want to do those,
crack on.
Then that, by all means, is a good option as well. Where does that take us to?
Where does it take us to? So basically, I think what we're saying is, for general population, the need to be strong isn't really there. You need a a degree of strength, hence why like I set my standards for them quite low.
Yeah.
And anything above that is kind of like, what do you want to do? What's fun for you? What's good for you? You know, like, and you know, you can look at it from if you get to this point, you're starting to get elite, you're starting to hit like the top 0.1% of the population. I said to you the other day, didn't I, that like, if you can squat over 180 kilos, you're in the top 0.01% of the world.
Yeah.
So if that's like cool for you to get to.
Basically, Matt was going on about the fact that he's in the top 0.01% of the world. That was how that all came about.
I'm still way weaker than like the rest of the 0.01%. I'm coming at the bottom.
But you're there.
But I'm there.
You're ahead of 99.9%.
Exactly.
Yeah. Nice.
But if you're an athlete, you probably do need to be working towards some degree of strength standard, I would say.
You do. There's definite strength standards that you need to meet, but understanding what those are based on your position and based on your role and based on like your sport are so key, because the amount of strength that a rugby player needs to develop, particularly a forward needs to develop, like you could even compare that to a back or a winger or whatever. Like the amount of strength needed by a prop is going to be a lot greater than the guys that aren't involved in the scrum.
Yeah, type 5 versus scrum half.
Yeah.
You know, let's say hooker, scrum half.
Yeah.
Like the demands of their two positions are so different that guy's obviously gonna the hooker's obviously gonna need to be way stronger than that guy. But I think as a general rule, for those people that are just engaging in, let's say, casual athletic pursuits, having like a 2 times body weight for a triple extension movement is a nice one. But for anyone else, it's worth, like we said, finding out the demands of your position, looking into some research, figuring out how strong you need to be, or let a coach do that for you. You know, that's probably the best thing you can do.
Do you know one group I think have done it really well in terms of establishing strength standards? It's the CrossFit community.
Yeah.
Like, I remember being given like this document that basically was looking at all the fitness tests that basically decided which level of WOD the athletes at a particular gym were going to go to. So if you go to a decent gym and they do that, that's like a really cool way to way to break things down. But it's like, okay, right, this is what you need to be able to squat. This is how many reps you should be able to do with press ups within a minute. This is how many pull ups you should be able to do unbroken, etc., etc., etc. As you progress along that, the pull ups become muscle ups. As you progress, the press ups become dips. The squat just gets heavier, and it was just a really nice way of going, okay, cool. If you haven't met all of these standards, then you come in and you do the beginner level WODs. If you have met standards for level 1, move on to level 2 and you start doing intermediate level WODs, then advanced level WODs, then elite level WODs.
Yeah.
And then it's just a nice way of kind of, and it makes a lot of sense within their sport, because obviously quite a lot of the workouts use a set load. So they have like a prescribed intensity that is absolute, and everyone has to use the same weight. Yeah. Rather than it being relative to individuals. So then as they progress through the levels, like their ability to move a certain amount of weight on a squat is then going to reflect their ability to sustain output at a certain weight within a WOD. Yeah. So I think they've done a wicked job, and it sounds like you kind of did a similar sort of thing with Starks, which is a cool way to do things. Yeah.
Well, I mean, interestingly enough, so like whenever we're talking about general population, I feel like people often brush past general population as like a population that don't need an approach in a similar way to how you would approach athletes, right? Like I remember at Starks, they've people, I won't say names, but used to say, these aren't athletes, Matt. You can't treat them in the same way you treat your athletes. And I was like, actually, if you look at from the perspective of, life athlete is a term that gets thrown around a lot, but if you look at it from the perspective of like, life is an athletic pursuit for people. Yeah. Like it's life as a sport, like being able to walk around, run, jump, play, do whatever, that's a sport. If you look at it from that perspective, it's very easy to figure out strength standards for that sport. Basically do a needs analysis of life. Because I mean, what I did was I went, cool, vertical pull, horizontal push, triple extension, leg, hinge pattern, and some cardiovascular things alongside that. And I was like, that covers most of what you need to be good at for life. And it's like, cool, vertical pull, we'll call that like cobra chins, right, in the rack. Yeah. If you can do 10 reps of that, then you're at level 1. And then level 2 is like, can you do a banded chin? And then level 3 is, can you do 1 or more full chin, and then level 4 is like, can you do 10 reps?
Yeah.
Right, and you can easily set up, like I said, like level 1 times body weight squat, level 2, 1.5, level 3, 2, and then level 4, I was like, they probably don't need to squat more than double body weight, so let's say front squat at 1.5. Can you front squat? You know, just to switch it up, just to give something different to aim towards. And like,
what about the people that you have that are slightly better suited towards front squatting and are therefore able to do 1.5 times body weight front squat when they can't do a 2 times body weight?
Well, I mean, that's
so they're a level 4 athlete, but a level 3 athlete at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. The strength standards are never going to work, right? At the end of the day, like, you're trying to come up with as standard a set of values, as standard a set of operating procedures as you possibly can to deal with a massive demographic.
Yeah. But in my mind as well, like, I think the reason I went with front squat is most of the squats that you do in life are loaded here.
Yeah.
Not there.
Yeah. No.
So from my perspective, it's like, cool, if you can do 1.5 times body weight front squat, crack on.
Yeah.
I'm good.
When did they move on to Zerchers? Because
those are really essential.
I mean, that's how I lift everything in life now, just in my elbows.
Just in your elbows, yeah. Because you don't want your back to break, right?
Exactly.
You don't want it to be glass.
Exactly.
I see.
I've been too delicate for too long, so I've decided that I am going to Zerch everything.
Zerch everything?
Yeah.
So, like, person on the floor, like...
Yeah, I Zerch a deadlift that individual, just there. Like a forklift.
Like a forklift.
Yeah. I make sound effects. I'm playful like that. Oh god. Yeah, I think your point about having those standards and having standards to meet are really cool. I think like doing it across different modalities of fitness or different areas of fitness is a really useful thing for people to do as well, because obviously we kind of look at fitness, we can get kind of bogged down in the idea of fitness as being this like one-dimensional thing of like, okay, well, I go to the gym, I lift weights, therefore I'm getting stronger. But the whole idea of like, how well can you coordinate yourself? How well can you move for a sustained period of time in like a cardiovascular exercise? How flexible are you? All of those sorts of things are interesting things to look at, and like having a level for each of those is great. And if you pursue one and don't necessarily excel at the others, that's fine, because of the fact you've chosen to prioritise one modality of fitness. But it's just interesting to kind of look at the whole package.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I used to do, so one of the things I did at the start, because it was quite fun to do. I don't know how much I actually got used and whether or not it was useful, but I used to create little athlete profiles and then have a little spider diagram, and it would be strength,
or one of those little web.
Strength, cardio, mobility. The other two escape me at this point, but it was like, something.
In mine, it's like strength, flexibility, speed, endurance, and coordination. Those are like the 5 key areas, and it's just like, okay, cool.
Yeah, and then I'd basically accumulate those 4 strength things into like a value on that thing, and then I think we had a 2K row, 20-second assault bike, anaerobic, aerobic, and those would go into that. And then we had like an overhead squat with a dowel, classic mobility. What can you do there? And I forget what the other, but basically it was like an FMS screen. Yeah. So basically like a little FMS screen, and that was the mobility element. And it was quite fun, because when we used to do testing weeks, right? And like I'd write it out, so it'd be like, cool, you're going to test like your squat and your chin, and then we're going to do we'll do some mobility screening at the start, then we'll test squat and chin, and then we'll finish with the 2K row. And that's a really nice session in itself. And you get this huge data set for an individual. Mm-hmm. And like being able to put someone's like athlete profile down and be like, this was your spider diagram before.
Yeah.
And this is your spider diagram now. And they're like, and these are people that, classically you come to the gym and like 6 months have gone by and people are like, oh, I thought you went to the gym. Like, why haven't you lost weight? Why don't you look like this? Mm-hmm. And these are people who'd be like, oh, I don't feel like I'm progressing, and I'll be able to go,
Here's how much your fitness has improved. I have like clients so I've got a couple of clients that ask me how to score their fitness, or how I would score their fitness, and it's like that's a really interesting question, right? The whole idea, and that is like such a useful way to do it. It's like, okay, cool, well, it's this score multiplied by this score multiplied by this score multiplied by this score multiplied by this score gives you your complete fitness score.
Yeah.
Which is quite it's just a fun way of fun way of approaching it. Because
I've iterated a lot of versions of that to try and find like one that works. And like you say, it's hard because some people are like into cardiovascular pursuits. Some people are into strength pursuits. Some people are into mobility pursuits. You know, they're all valid and all that sorts of stuff. And I think, but a lot of the time, those people see that as like, oh, I just want to be good at that. Because that's what that's what I care about. That's what's fun for me. And I'm like, but do you realize that you could be better at that if you engaged in these things?
Yeah.
And the sad thing is that a lot of people won't do it because they have this like relationship with sport and exercise that, you know, probably started in PE where they weren't very athletic, and so all of the naturally athletic people were good and they got told they were shit and things like that. But what's so awesome a lot of the time is when I get someone who's like, I don't really enjoy the gym, I don't like it, like I don't see how you can enjoy it, and I get them to like squat. Like I've talked about Iffy before, right? When she first came in, she was like, I hate the gym, I don't like it, And I tell you what, nothing gives me more pleasure than watching her squat 120 kilos. She started at 50.
Yeah.
She could barely squat 50. And now she's like, I want to squat. I enjoy it. Like a smile on her face. She's like, she knows she's strong now.
Yeah.
She came in the other day and she was like, Matt, I'm stronger than 2 of the female gladiators. And I was like, so that makes you a gladiator by proxy.
Yeah, I mean,
like that's sick. But people, like that's why I think these things are so important.
Yeah.
Because
but that's why I think it's so important to have more. Because for some people like Iffy, that is the thing that she excelled in, the thing that made her feel great, the thing that makes her eyes light up now, the thing that makes your eyes light up when you're training.
Yeah.
But then for other people, it is going to be, can I now pistol squat? Can I now do a pull up? Can I now run a mile in under 6 minutes? Can I, you know? So it's just it's having those things that like everyone can kind of work towards. That,
exactly.
You know, it's
it's not just a strength standard.
One thing. So that's the other thing. Coming back to the kind of strength standard stuff. Then is, and it's why I don't necessarily like the idea of setting a strength standard per se across all sports, because for some athletes, like for some people that just want to be better runners, they might quite quickly move away from doing back squats or squats and move towards doing more single leg stuff, because of the fact it just allows them to push themselves a little bit harder without necessarily putting as much strain on their core, because they don't need to develop a core that can withstand 2 times body weight. But they can still build decent leg strength, single leg strength that will translate well into their sport. And there's a combination of how much force their body can produce times by the amount of coordination that is required for that particular activity. And like going, okay, right, well, I know that I want to be able to use 2 legs to produce 2 times body weight like force. If I'm using 1 leg, it's not actually about meeting 1 times body weight. It's about like achieving the amount of force with your muscles to overcome 1 times body weight on a single leg, but then being aware that the inefficiency caused by a lack of coordination and imbalance being in that imbalanced position means that you probably only really need to be able to produce 0.8 times body weight of force with that single leg. And it's just like being able to understand that and being able to understand what move you're choosing, and as a result what you should be striving for, what your goal should be within that particular lift. Because like the more you move towards a more coordinated lift, like you say with the front squat versus the back squat, like the front squat is harder than the back squat from a mobility perspective. It puts more strain on your knees, but it's also a more coordinated exercise. It's harder to balance with that particular movement. So you went from 2 times body weight on triple extension to 1.5 times body weight on triple extension, but that was still a level up. And it's understanding that comes down to, okay, cool, well, this is a more coordinated task. It requires greater levels of mobility. It's placing more emphasis on a smaller set of muscles. And as a result, the force target doesn't need to be as high, but that still reflects a greater capacity to produce force.
To summarise, because I feel like we've talked around it a lot, and I feel like we're pretty set in what we're saying. From a Gen Pop perspective, what would you say is the thing for them to think about? Like when, let's say Gen Pop guy or gal goes into the gym
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, I don't know where to start.
Yeah.
What are some targets from your 5 pillars of fitness type thing that they should have in their mind as like a first thing, like a first target? Right, let's have 5 things that people need to be good at.
5 things from each area.
No, 5 things total. So like 1 from each area. Come on.
I mean,
On the spot.
Okay, cool. So realistically, I'd probably say coordination-wise, working towards pistol squat.
Cool.
From a flexibility standpoint, can you touch your toes?
Touch your toes. I like it.
Like, maybe mobility standpoint, you could do the overhead squat test that you mentioned, because an overhead squat test is a pretty good test of all-round full body mobility.
I like touching the toes though. A lot of people can't touch their toes.
Yeah, I mean it's just an easy enough sort of thing to start working towards. From a strength perspective, let's go for like a 0.7 times body weight bench press.
Oh, okay. I like it. We've gone bench.
I'm just avoiding. I've just realised I've gone leg exercise. I wanted an upper body exercise.
Yeah, fair.
From a endurance perspective, being able to row 2 kilometers in under 10 minutes.
Yep, I like it.
And then from a speed perspective, speed's an interesting one because of the fact the vast majority of people don't really train speed that much.
Box jump shin height.
So, is that speed or is that power? Like, I'd probably go down the route of mountain climbers as the easiest exercise to develop like foot speed in. You could go pogos, you could do wall drives.
Okay. How about a minute of continuous skipping?
A minute of continuous skipping.
That's a nice easy access one. Or
Easy
a minute
access,
of continuous pogos.
A minute of continuous pogos. Cool.
There you go.
So
being able to deal with that.
Being able to do a minute of continuous how many pogos would you expect someone to get done in a minute?
Ooh. I reckon.
Going to be higher.
Really?
Yeah, I reckon it's probably closer to 50. I mean, it depends on the height of the jump, right, as well. 'Cause
Yeah.
if you think about single skips, how many single skips you'd expect someone to get done in a minute? If they're going max speed, you're looking at over 100.
Yeah.
If they've got the ability to skip, if they're not Aaron.
Yeah. Or me.
But yeah, so I mean speed's a much more complicated one, and it's like there's so many different dimensions you can work, like so many different moving patterns you can look at. I'm gonna have to have a think about that one.
Okay.
Speed is tough.
For the reason I wanted to ask you this is anyone that's listening, I want you to try in the gym the next time you're in, see if you can hit all those strength standards, and let us know in the comments whether or not you do it.
Okay.
Like, are you athletic enough
let's
to
go 20 reps of tuck jumps.
20 tuck jumps.
Yeah.
Ooh, I like it.
Seeing as we're being evil, like, plus I realised I was way too nice in the bench press now. Now that I'm aware that we're working towards a standard for everybody to work towards. Yeah, cool.
Okay, so pistol
squat.
1 rep on each side, full depth.
Yep.
Number 2
was
touch toes.
Touch toes.
Number 3
was 70% of body weight
bench press. Number 4 tuck jump.
Number 4 was rowing 2K in under 10 minutes.
Rowing 2K in under 10 minutes.
And number 5 was 20 consecutive tuck jumps with fast ground contact.
I like it. There you go. So let us know in the comments if you are athletic enough for Zab as a human, whether or not you hit his minimum standards.
If you are, you win Matt's cap.
Oh no, I'm not giving this away. I bought this in Machu Picchu. This is my...
This one time
in Machu Picchu, I charmed it for a while. But no, so that's Gen Pop. So to conclude, basically what we're saying is like you don't need necessarily strength standards or power standards or other things as a general population, but there are some things that like are useful for you to work towards.
It's nice to have a set of targets. So it's like having the strength standards there is great if that's the path you want to move down. So having like 5 levels for each of those axes, so you can go, okay, cool, I want to pursue this axis, so I'm going to try and get to level 3. Like that's a useful thing. But yeah, so strength standards are useful from that point.
Yeah. And then from an athletic point of view, what we're saying is it is entirely dependent on your sport, your position in your sport, and basically the requirements of that position, i.e. like do you need to be fast? Do you need to be quick? Do you need to be... I realise those are the same things. Do you need to be strong? Do you need to be aerobically fit? Do you need to be anaerobically fit? Like, what are those things? Look at what everyone else in the sport, in like the best guys in that position in the world. So like if you're a scrum half in rugby,
the best guys in that position that play the game the way you want to play.
Yeah, the way you want to play it. But
because
like let's say you want to play rugby to a high standard.
Yep.
You're a scrum half. You look at someone like Anton Dupont, right? You look at what he's able to do. Like you might want to try and find out what he's able to do. If you're say a javelin thrower, you might look at the guys at the World Championship, like what they're able to do in their training. Like just find some way of looking at the people playing the sport that you want to play and how good they are at certain things.
Research a needs analysis, go on Google Scholar, find a needs analysis for your sport, for the level of sport that you play, and try to work towards that as a set of goals, basically, is the key, right?
Yeah. So we're saying it's not hard and fast, it's not you need to be able to produce 2 tons body weight in a back squat, it's just doing the analysis of your sport.
Yep.
And try and work towards that.
And find a way that you can work towards that you actually are going to enjoy. And if you do deviate from the tests that are used within that needs analysis, make adjustments accordingly.
Yeah.
And if you don't know how to make those adjustments, talk to Matt.
What's that?
Nice.
I think that's it.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that's. It wasn't where I expected the conversation to go. Interestingly,
no, you thought
but
it was
I was happy with it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like it's just easy, isn't it? When you talk about strength standards, especially someone with my bias coming at it.
Yeah.
My brain just goes SBD, squat,
Yeah.
bench, deadlift. What can you do?
Yeah.
And it's very easy to forget about all the other things when you're not coaching it a lot. So,
I think squat, bench, and deadlift, having those standards has been so useful for so many people. It's such an easy way for you to go, okay, cool, I'm strong enough now.
Yeah.
Like I've reached this level of strength. That's the level of strength that I needed.
Yeah.
What's next? Like maybe I carry on going for that because of the fact I enjoy it, because of the fact I love seeing numbers go up.
Yeah. I would say, just as a little add-on, little extra, I think something that would be, it's not essential, but I think something that a lot of people should work towards, because I do think it's really fun. It makes you feel cool. It allows you to play more.
Olympic lifting.
Being able to do a handstand. Yeah, because so many people are afraid of being upside down and afraid of using their bodies. I think, like from a like actual like being able to enjoy life a little bit more, being able to do a handstand, being able to hang from a bar for more than 30 seconds would just open the world. Do you know what I mean? From a play perspective.
Yeah.
Like people look at it and they think these are things that are so far away from me and I can't do it. And even just box jumping.
Handstands, monkey bars. But then we're like looking at like the world of obstacle course racing, which I think is...
But obstacle course, it doesn't even have to be like competitive obstacle course racing. I'm just thinking, like, honestly,
Yeah.
I went on holiday to Portugal with, like, not with you guys, this was like with Starkway back in the day on the retreat.
Yeah.
And I just remember, like, moving through this little bit of forest and I was like hopping over like logs and we went down to the beach and I was like skipping along the stones and, you know, grabbing and climbing up trees and stuff. And I was like, this is so fun.
I can picture this.
Yeah, like a little monkey.
Yeah.
Like a little shaved chimp. Just through the Portuguese forest. But like honestly, like being able to do that stuff and being outside in nature and like it's just cool. Like it's I don't want to throw it in there as like a you have to be able to do this, but just in my mind was just going, do you know what? Do you know what would actually be really fun is if like more people could do that.
Yeah.
And I think it would like improve people's relationship with
the whole idea of like pursuing physical freedom.
Yeah.
Like that is fundamentally what
we're doing.
Training should be about, right? Yeah. For the vast majority of people, it's like, okay, cool. How can I make sure that I can live the life that I want to be able to live? That I can say yes to everything. Like that's your
never say no.
Never say no, because it is horrible to feel like you're limited by what you're physically capable of doing. Like, but being able to go out and climb up mountains, being able to run after a bus, being able to go out and play with your kids, being able to,
help someone move.
Yeah.
So, like nothing makes you feel better than being the guy or the girl that someone goes to that's like, hey, I'm moving house. I need someone strong.
Yeah.
Are you available? And
I feel like I mean, people massage your ego to get you to do that.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah,
fine.
I mean,
they can massage my ego, but
If
like
they
I'm like,
massage my ego, I will do anything. is
but
what we're
they're
saying.
not going to massage the ego of someone that they don't think is going to be capable of doing it.
Yeah,
Do you know what I
valid,
mean? So
valid,
like it
yeah,
makes
yeah.
you feel good. You're like, hey, you think I'm capable of helping you move a sofa? Like that makes me feel good.
Nice. Nice. So we basically decided that the conversation about strength standards is now actually just a conversation about all standards of fitness.
All standards of fitness.
All standards of fitness. Nice.
100%.
Nice.
I think that's good. So yeah, in summary, go back to Zab's athletic standards, have a go, let us know what you think, and if you're an athlete, just make sure you know the demands of your sport.
Yep.
And crack on.
Exactly that.
Sweet.
Exactly
Next
that.
week, we're going to tackle.
What was it?
There's no such thing as a bad exercise.
There is no such thing as a bad exercise.
Or are there good and bad exercises? Are they useless exercises? What exercises might be useless? And what exercises are the best? Big statements. Tune in.
Stop flirting.
With everyone.
With everybody, yeah.
Flirting with the internet.
I'll tell Amy.
Howdy, partner. Just do my deepest American accent, like, you know.
It's actually scary. I've never been more attracted to you in my life.
Thank you.
Right. Cool.
So-
On that note.
On that
Done.
note, bye.
Done. Au revoir.
Au revoir.